My name is Aurelia Winslow, and I walked into my husband's family Christmas party carrying 5 carefully wrapped boxes. Each one contained a handmade jewelry box I had spent weeks creating. I had poured my heart into every carved detail, every inlaid pattern, every polished surface. The wood was rare mahogany, the hinges were custom brass, and the interior silk lining was hand-stitched with gold thread. But none of that mattered to the people waiting inside that perfectly decorated living room. When his mother opened her gift first, the room went silent for exactly 3 seconds. Then someone giggled. His sister opened hers next and didn't even try to hide her disappointment. "Oh," she said flatly, turning it over in her hands like it was a cheap souvenir. Then his mother spoke the words that would change everything. "Oh look, DIY crafts from Pinterest," she sneered, holding up my work like it was a joke. The room erupted in laughter. His aunt whispered loudly to his cousin, "This is embarrassing." My husband stood right beside me and said absolutely nothing. He just looked at the floor while his family passed my gifts around like cheap trinkets from a dollar store. I stood there burning with shame, my face hot, my hands shaking, watching the mock months of my work. I wanted to disappear. I wanted to scream. But I did neither. I just smiled weakly and pretended it didn't hurt. I excused myself to get water from the kitchen, but really I just needed to escape. Through the doorway, I could still hear them talking in the dining room. Their voices carried easily across the hardwood floors. "Why can't she just buy real gifts like everyone else?" his aunt asked. "She's obsessed with her silly hobby," his sister added with a laugh. "It's actually kind of sad." I gripped the counter, trying to steady my breathing. Then I heard my husband's voice. Someone must have asked him about my gifts because he said casually, "She gets emotional about her crafts. Just ignore her. She'll get over it." That betrayal hurt more than all the mocking combined. He wasn't defending me. He was dismissing me. He was telling his family that my feelings didn't matter, that I was being dramatic, that I should just accept their cruelty and move on. I pressed my hand against my mouth to keep from crying out loud. This was the man I had married. The man who promised to stand beside me. And he was standing with them instead. I took 3 deep breaths and walked back into the dining room with a fake smile plastered on my face. I would not give them the satisfaction of seeing me break. Not yet. Dinner was torture. I sat quietly while they talked and laughed, pretending everything was fine. His mother kept glancing at the jewelry box on the side table, occasionally shaking her head with a small smile like it was an inside joke. When dessert was served, she reached across the table and handed me a glossy catalogue. "Sweetheart," she said with false kindness dripping from every word. "Next year, maybe buy from here instead. It will save you the embarrassment of giving homemade things. We're not really a crafty family." Everyone at the table laughed again. Agreed. Nodded. My husband cut into his pie and said nothing. I looked down at the catalogue. Expensive designer gifts, the kind that screamed money but had no soul, no thought, no love behind them. "Thank you," I whispered, because what else could I say? The moment dessert ended, I excused myself to the bathroom. I locked the door and finally let the tears come. I cried silently, my hands covering my mouth, my shoulders shaking. But somewhere between the tears and the humiliation, something inside me shifted. I wasn't sad anymore. I was angry. Furiously, coldly angry. And I made myself a promise right there in that bathroom. They would never laugh at my work again. Never. What my husband's family didn't know, what they had never bothered to ask about, was who I actually was. I wasn't just a hobbyist who made crafts in my spare time. I was a luxury artisan whose work sold discreetly to wealthy collectors all over the world. Each piece I created was valued between $20,000 and $50,000. Museums had contacted me. Private collectors waited months for my work. Art dealers knew my name, even if my husband's family didn't. I had always kept my success private because I hated attention. I didn't post about my work on social media. I didn't brag at family gatherings. I simply created beautiful things and sold them quietly to people who understood their value. The jewelry boxes I had given to my husband's family were simplified versions of my gallery pieces. Yes, but they were still made with the same rare materials, the same techniques, the same care. Each one was worth at least $25,000 if sold properly. But they would never know that because they had decided my work was worthless before they even opened the boxes. That night, lying in bed while my husband snored beside me, I made a decision. I was done hiding. I was done being small. I was going to embrace my success fully and let the whole world see what I could do. The car ride home was silent until we pulled into our driveway. Then my husband finally spoke. "You embarrass me tonight," he said flatly, not looking at me. I turned to stare at him. "I embarrassed you. My family was trying to be nice about your gifts, and you got all sensitive and weird. You ruined the mood." I felt something crack inside my chest. "They laughed at me, Marcus. They mocked my work in front of everyone. Because you gave them Pinterest crafts for Christmas," he said, his voice rising. "My mother is used to luxury brands. My sister expects nice things. You can't just give people homemade stuff and expect them to pretend it's expensive." "It is expensive," I said quietly. He scoffed. "It's wood and glue, Aurelia. Next year, just buy designer gifts like normal people. I don't want to go through this again." I got out of the car without another word and walked into our house. He followed, still talking, still telling me I was overreacting. But I wasn't listening anymore. I was done listening to someone who didn't see me, didn't value me, didn't even try to understand what I did. He was ashamed of who I was. And I was finally realizing that I deserved so much better than this. The next morning, I did something I had never done before. I called my agent and told her I was ready to do a public showcase. For years, she had been begging me to display my work in a proper exhibition, to let the art world see my pieces beyond private sales. I had always refused because I like my privacy. But not anymore. "I want a limited showcase," I told her. "My most valuable pieces. And I want to include designs based on the jewelry boxes I just made." She was silent for a moment, then said excitedly, "Are you serious? Aurelia, this is going to be incredible. People have been dying to see your work in person." "I'm serious," I said. "Let's do it." Over the next few days, I threw myself into preparing. I designed 3 new pieces specifically for the showcase, each one an elevated version of the gifts I had given to Marcus's family. The same patterns, the same wood, the same techniques, but larger, more intricate, more breathtaking. Each piece would be priced at $40,000 or more. My agent secured a gallery space downtown, one known for hosting exclusive luxury art events. Invitations went out to collectors, journalists, and art dealers. The buzz started immediately. And through it all, Marcus had no idea what I was planning. Each piece would be priced at $40,000 or more. My agent secured a gallery space downtown, one known for hosting exclusive luxury art events. Invitations went out to collectors, journalists, and art dealers. The buzz started immediately. And through it all, Marcus had no idea what I was planning. He thought I was just sulking in my studio, licking my wounds. He had no clue that I was about to change everything. 2 weeks after Christmas, Marcus came home from work looking thoughtful. He had been at a networking event with potential investors for his tech startup. "I overheard something interesting today," he said, pouring himself a drink. "Some investors were talking about a mysterious artisan who's apparently transforming the luxury market. They said her work is selling for insane amounts of money." I looked up from my laptop. "Really?" "Yeah." They were all excited about some upcoming showcase. One guy said he's been on a wait list for 2 years just to buy one piece. Marcus laughed and shook his head. "Probably another wannabe artist with good marketing. These people fall for anything if you package it right." I smiled and said nothing. He had no idea. Absolutely no idea. "Anyway," he continued, "I'm meeting with those same investors next month to pitch my company. I need you to come and look presentable. Wear something nice, not your usual jeans and paint-stained shirts." "Of course," I said sweetly. Inside, I was counting down the days until he realized the truth. The showcase was scheduled for 3 weeks from now. By then, everyone would know who I was. Including him. The first crack in Marcus's ignorance came from an unexpected source. A famous art collector posted one of my pieces on social media, a jewelry box he had purchased from me 2 years ago. The post went viral overnight. Thousands of likes. Hundreds of comments from people asking where they could buy my work. The design he posted was almost identical to the one I had given Marcus's mother for Christmas. Same wood grain pattern. Same brass inlay technique. Same carved details. Within hours, my agent was fielding calls from journalists wanting to interview me. Art blogs wrote features about the reclusive artisan finally entering the spotlight. Luxury lifestyle magazines requested photos of my studio. My name was suddenly everywhere in the art world. And that's when Marcus's family started seeing the posts. His sister was the first to notice. She sent me a text message that simply said, "Is this you? with a link to an article titled Aurelia Winslow, the luxury artisan you've never heard of. The tone of her message wasn't mocking anymore. It was nervous, uncertain, almost scared. I didn't respond. I just watched as more messages started rolling in from his mother, his aunt, his cousin. All of them suddenly very interested in my hobby. All of them suddenly remembering the gifts I had given them. The messages kept coming. His mother, Aurelia, sweetheart, the jewelry box you made me, it was handmade by you personally, correct? His sister, do you still have the one you gave me? I think I might have misplaced it. His aunt, can you authenticate the pieces you gave us? For insurance purposes. I ignored every single message. Marcus noticed me smiling at my phone one evening. What's so funny? He asked. Nothing, I said. Just work stuff. But it wasn't nothing. It was everything. They were panicking. They had spent weeks mocking my gifts, calling them worthless Pinterest crafts, laughing at my supposed lack of taste. And now they were realizing that those worthless boxes might actually be worth a fortune. They were scrambling to find them, to protect them, to figure out if they had accidentally thrown away thousands of dollars. The desperation in their messages was delicious. But I wasn't ready to give them answers. Not yet. Let them wonder. Let them panic. Let them realize what they had done. Marcus's mother called me directly 3 times. I let every call go to voicemail. His sister showed up at our house unannounced, but I pretended I wasn't home. I was done being available to people who had treated me like garbage. They would have to wait. Then something unexpected happened. One of my older pieces showed up at an auction house. A collector who had bought from me 5 years ago decided to sell, and the auction house publicized it heavily because my work had suddenly become so valuable. The estimated sale price was $20,000 to $30,000. I watched the auction live stream from my studio. Bidding started at $15,000 and climbed rapidly. $20,000. $25,000. $27,000. The final hammer price was $27,800. For a single jewelry box. The auction made headlines in luxury news outlets. Photos of the piece were published everywhere. And the design was nearly identical to the ones I had given Marcus's family. That evening, Marcus came home and showed me his phone. This is insane, he said, scrolling through auction photos. Someone paid almost $30,000 for a wooden box. People are crazy. I leaned over to look at the screen. It's beautiful work, I said carefully. I guess some people recognize quality when they see it. He snorted. Quality? It's just fancy woodwork. Not worth that kind of money. I smiled and went back to my studio. The irony was almost too perfect. His family was currently in possession of 5 boxes worth $25,000 each. That was over $125,000 in total sitting in their homes. And they had mocked every single piece. The next day, the messages from Marcus's family escalated from nervous to desperate. His mother, Aurelia, I need to speak with you urgently about the gift you gave me. Please call me back. His sister, I'm serious. I can't find the box you gave me. Do you have any records of it? His cousin, my mom is freaking out. She thinks she might have donated yours to Goodwill by accident. That last message made me actually laugh out loud. Donated to Goodwill. A $25,000 piece of art. Because they thought it was worthless. Marcus noticed the constant buzzing of my phone. Why is my family blowing up your phone? He asked. They have questions about the gifts I gave them, I said simply. What kind of questions? You'd have to ask them. He looked confused but didn't push further. That night at dinner, I could tell he was getting uncomfortable with my coldness toward his family. You're being petty, he said finally. They are trying to reach out to you, and you're ignoring them. That's rude. I set down my fork and looked at him directly. You didn't defend me when they laughed at my work. You told me I was being too emotional. You sided with them when they humiliated me. So no, Marcus, I don't think I owe them anything. And I don't owe you anything either. His face flushed with anger, but he didn't argue. He knew I was right. He just didn't want to admit it. 3 days later, my agent called with incredible news. A prominent luxury brand wanted to collaborate with me on a private exhibit. It would be exclusive, invitation only, featuring my best work alongside pieces from other renowned artisans. The event would be covered by major art publications and attended by collectors from around the world. This is it, Aurelia, she said excitedly. This is going to make you a household name in the luxury art world. Let's do it, I said. The exhibit was scheduled for 6 weeks away. That gave me time to complete the showcase pieces I had been working on and prepare for the biggest moment of my career. I didn't tell Marcus about the collaboration. I didn't tell him about the exhibit. I just kept working quietly in my studio, letting him believe I was still just his wife with a silly little hobby. He would find out soon enough. They all would. And when they did, everything would change. Marcus's family finally forced a confrontation. His mother called and insisted that we come to dinner to talk about some important family matters. Marcus pressured me to go, saying it would be good for us to reconnect with his family. I agreed, but only because I wanted to see their faces when they asked me about the gifts. We arrived at his parents' house on a Saturday evening. The whole family was there: mother, father, sister, aunt, cousin. They had clearly planned this together. Everyone sat around the dining table looking uncomfortable. Finally, his mother spoke. "Aurelia, we've been seeing a lot of news articles lately about an artist with your name. And the work looks very similar to the gifts you gave us for Christmas." I said nothing. Just waited. "If we had known your gifts were valuable," she continued carefully, "we would have acted differently. We would have appreciated them more. You have to understand, we didn't realize what they were." I smiled coldly. "Exactly," I said. "That's the problem. You didn't value them because you assumed they weren't valuable. You judged them, and me, without ever bothering to look deeper." His sister jumped in. "But you never told us you were a professional artist. How were we supposed to know?" "You could have asked," I said simply. "At any point in the 3 years I've been married to your brother, you could have asked what I do. But you never did because you had already decided I wasn't worth your time." The dinner grew tense. Marcus's mother tried a different approach, her voice sticky-sweet with false concern. "We want to make things right," she said. "We're family, after all. We should support each other." "That would have been nice at Christmas," I replied. Then his father cleared his throat. "Aurelia, we'd like you to sign certificates of authenticity for the pieces you gave us. For insurance purposes, you understand. We want to make sure they are properly protected." There it was. The real reason for this dinner. They didn't want to apologize. They didn't want to make amends. They wanted me to officially confirm that the gifts they had mocked were worth thousands of dollars so they could protect their unexpected windfall. I leaned back in my chair and looked at each of them slowly. "I can't authenticate what you considered trash," I said calmly. The room went completely silent. His mother's face turned red. "Excuse me. You called them Pinterest crafts. You said they were embarrassing. You literally suggested I buy from a catalog next time. So no, I won't be signing any certificates." His sister stood up abruptly. "That's not fair. You're punishing us for an honest mistake." "It wasn't a mistake," I said, my voice steady and cold. "It was cruelty. You deliberately humiliated me in front of the entire family. And Marcus let you." I looked at my husband, who had said nothing during this entire exchange. "He agreed with you. He told me to buy normal gifts next time. He was ashamed of me." Marcus finally spoke. "Aurelia, that's not—" "Yes, it is," I interrupted. "Own it." His mother tried to regain control of the conversation. "This is ridiculous," she said, her voice sharp now. "You're being childish. We're asking for a simple signature, and you're making it into some kind of dramatic revenge plot." "Dramatic?" I repeated. "You want me to legally verify that I made you expensive gifts so you can profit from them. The same gifts you laughed at. The same gifts you called sad. And I'm the one being dramatic." His aunt spoke up from the end of the table. "Aurelia, I think you're being very unfair. We didn't know the value of what you gave us. That's your fault for not explaining." I almost laughed. "It's my fault that you judged me without asking questions? It's my fault that you assumed my work was worthless." "Yes," his sister shouted. "You let us think you were just some craft hobbyist." "I never said that," I corrected. "You decided that. You looked at me and saw someone beneath you, someone not worth respecting. That was your choice, not mine." Marcus finally tried to intervene. "Everyone needs to calm down. We can work this out like adults." "No," I said firmly, standing up from the table. "We can't. Because this isn't about the gifts anymore. This is about respect. And I'm finally understanding that I will never get it from any of you." I picked up my purse and walked toward the door. Behind me, his mother called out desperately, "If you don't authenticate those pieces, we'll have them appraised independently."
I turned back one last time. "Good luck with that," I said. Then I left. Marcus followed me out to the car, angry and embarrassed.
The drive home was filled with him yelling about how I had ruined everything and made his family look stupid.
I stayed silent until we pulled into our driveway. Then I finally spoke.
"Your family is trying to profit from gifts they mocked.
Do you not see how twisted that is?"
They made a mistake," he shouted. "They didn't know." "They didn't want to know," I corrected. "There's a difference."
We went inside and the argument continued. His sister started texting him, which only made things worse.
She was accusing me of ruining the family by not correcting their misunderstandings earlier. His mother sent a long message demanding compensation for being misled about the nature of my gifts.
It was absurd. Completely absurd.
They had decided my work was worthless, laughed at me publicly, and now they were angry at me for not stopping them? Finally, in the middle of the argument, I asked Marcus a direct question. "Did you know what my work was worth when you told them I was just a hobbyist?"
He froze.
"What?" "You heard me. Did you know?"
His face went pale. He knew exactly what I was asking.
And in that moment of silence, I had my answer. Marcus tried to backtrack, but it was too late. I had seen the truth in his face. "You knew," I said slowly, the realization settling over me like ice water. "You knew exactly what my work was worth, and you told them I was just a hobbyist anyway." "Aurelia, why?"
I demanded.
"Why would you lie to your own family about what I do?" He ran his hands through his hair, looking cornered. "Because I didn't want you outshining everyone at family events, okay? Is that what you want to hear?"
I stared at him in disbelief.
"You sabotaged me because you were jealous." "Not jealous," he corrected angrily. "I just didn't want every conversation to become about how successful you are. My family already thinks I'm a failure because my startup hasn't taken off. I didn't need them comparing me to my wife who makes more money than all of us combined." The truth crashed over me like a wave. He hadn't defended me at Christmas because he had set me up to be mocked.
He had deliberately downplayed my career to his family so they would look down on me. He had sacrificed my dignity to protect his fragile ego.
"You let them humiliate me on purpose," I whispered. "It wasn't like that," he said weakly. "Yes, it was exactly like that." I walked to our bedroom and started pulling clothes from the closet. Marcus followed me, panicking now. "What are you doing?"
"I'm leaving," I said calmly.
"We can talk about this."
"No, we can't. Because you destroyed my trust. You destroyed my respect for you."
"And I'm done." I packed a bag while he begged me to stay, to reconsider, to give him another chance. I ignored every word. For the first time in years, I felt powerful. I finally valued myself enough to walk away. I stayed with a friend for the next 2 weeks while I focused on preparing for my exhibition. It was liberating, being away from Marcus and his toxic family. Every morning I woke up feeling lighter, stronger, more like myself. My agent worked overtime securing press coverage for the showcase. Every major art publication wanted to feature my work. Luxury lifestyle magazines sent photographers to my studio. Collectors called daily asking about availability. My career was exploding in exactly the way I had always been capable of, but had been too afraid to pursue. And through it all, Marcus kept texting, apologizing, begging, making promises. I blocked his number after the 5th message. His family tried reaching out too, but I ignored them completely. They had made their choice at Christmas. Now they could live with the consequences. 3 days before the exhibition opened, my agent called with news that made me smile. "A major collector just purchased one of your showcase pieces sight unseen based on the preview photos.
$43,000.
And they want to commission 3 more.
"Who is it?"
I asked. "Someone named Victoria Chen. She's apparently a huge fan of your work."
I almost laughed.
Victoria Chen was Marcus's mother's former boss.
This was going to be perfect.
The night of my exhibition opening was magical. The gallery was packed with collectors, journalists, art dealers, and wealthy patrons. Everyone dressed in expensive clothes, champagne flowing, classical music playing softly in the background. My pieces were displayed on illuminated pedestals throughout the space. Each one had a small placard with the title, materials, and price. The jewelry boxes that were inspired by my Christmas gifts were the centerpiece of the entire show. They drew the most attention, the most gasps, the most admiration. People studied every detail, photographed them from multiple angles, and spoke in hushed, reverent tones about the craftsmanship. I wore a simple black dress and stood near the back, watching it all unfold. My agent worked the room, answering questions, accepting business cards, scheduling appointments with interested buyers.
Then I saw them.
Marcus's mother, sister, and aunt walked through the gallery doors, dressed up and looking around nervously. They had somehow gotten tickets to the invitation-only event.
I watched as they approached my showcase pieces.
His mother stood in front of the largest jewelry box, the one priced at $41,000, and her face went completely white.
She recognized the design immediately. It was nearly identical to the gift I had given her. The gift she had called a Pinterest craft. The gift she had laughed at. Her hands started shaking. She turned to her daughters and whispered something. They all looked horrified.
That's when his mother saw me standing across the room.
Our eyes met. And I smiled.
They tried to approach me, but my agent intercepted them smoothly. I had warned her that Marcus's family might show up, and she had prepared for exactly this situation. I'm sorry, but Ms. Winslow is not available for personal conversations during the exhibition, she said professionally. If you'd like to inquire about purchasing a piece, I can direct you to our sales coordinator.
His mother sputtered. I'm her mother-in-law.
I just need to speak with her for a moment. Ms. Winslow has requested no interruptions this evening, my agent repeated firmly. If you'll excuse me. She turned and walked away, leaving them standing there helplessly. I watched from a distance as they lingered near my pieces, taking photos, whispering urgently to each other. His sister pulled out her phone and started typing frantically. Probably texting Marcus. Probably panicking about what they had thrown away. An hour later, a journalist approached me for an interview. We stood in front of my centerpiece collection while she recorded on her phone. Your work has become incredibly sought after in a very short time, she said. What inspired this particular collection?
I smiled and told her the truth.
These pieces were inspired by gifts I gave to family members who didn't appreciate them. They taught me an important lesson about value, that some people can't recognize quality until someone else tells them it's expensive.
The journalist's eyes lit up. She knew there was a story there.
Can you elaborate? Some people judge worth based on price tags rather than craftsmanship. This collection is my response to that mindset. The interview was published the next day in a major art magazine.
And Marcus's family read every word.
2 days after the exhibition opened, I received an email that made my stomach turn. It was from Marcus's sister. The subject line read, "Please read this." Against my better judgment, I opened it.
The message was long and rambling, but the core of it was shocking.
She confessed that she, her mother, and her aunt had sold the jewelry boxes I had given them. They had listed them on online marketplace sites for $50 each, thinking they were just homemade crafts. They wanted to get rid of them quickly and make a little money in the process. All 3 boxes had sold within days. And now, after seeing my exhibition and understanding what those pieces were actually worth, they were desperate to get them back. But they had no idea who had bought them or where they were now. "We made a terrible mistake," she wrote. "We're trying to track down the buyers, but most of them used anonymous accounts. Please, Aurelia, is there any way you can help us?
We'll pay whatever it takes to get them back."
I read the email 3 times, letting the full weight of it sink in. They had sold $75,000 worth of art for $150 total.
Because they were so certain my work was worthless. I didn't respond to the email. There was nothing to say. They had made their choice.
They had thrown away something precious because they couldn't see its value. That was their burden to carry, not mine. The exhibition ran for 2 weeks, and it was a massive success. Every single piece sold. Collectors fought over the few remaining works. My agent fielded dozens of commission requests. Luxury brands reached out about collaborations. Museums expressed interest in featuring my work in future exhibits. My career had gone from quietly successful to publicly celebrated. The jewelry box collection, the pieces inspired by my Christmas gifts, became the most talked about work in the show. Art critics wrote essays about the quiet luxury of my designs. Collectors called them instant classics. The final piece, the largest and most intricate box, sold for $41,200 at a closing night auction. And the winning bidder was Victoria Chen, Marcus's mother's former boss. She bought it specifically because she loved the craftsmanship and because she knew the story behind it. She had heard about the Christmas disaster through mutual connections, and she wanted to support me. When the auction hammer fell, confirming the sale, I saw Marcus's mother in the audience. She had attended the closing night event, probably hoping for one last chance to speak with me. She watched Victoria walk up to claim her purchase, and the devastation on her face was complete.
She had owned a nearly identical piece.
She had mocked it, sold it for $50, and lost it forever. Now she was watching someone else pay over $40,000 for the same design.
The irony was perfect. Painful, but perfect.
The morning after the exhibition closed, Marcus showed up at my friend's apartment where I had been staying. He looked terrible, unshaven, exhausted, desperate. "We need to talk," he said when I answered the door. I almost closed it in his face, but something made me pause. Maybe I needed to hear what he had to say. Maybe I needed closure. I let him in. We sat across from each other in the small living room, and he started talking. "My family is devastated," he began. "They realize what they did. They want to apologize." "I don't care what they want," I said flatly. "Aurelia, please.
They made a mistake.
Can't you forgive them?"
They didn't make a mistake, Marcus.
They made a choice. They chose to judge me, mock me, and throw away my work. That wasn't an accident. He ran his hands through his hair, frustrated. "You owe my family an apology.
You misled us about what your gifts were worth."
"If you had just told us," I stood up abruptly.
"No. You don't get to flip this on me.
I gave your family beautiful, expensive gifts made with love and skill. You all decided they were worthless without ever asking questions. That's not my fault. That's yours." "You're being unreasonable," he said, his voice rising.
"I'm being clear," I corrected.
"You underestimated me.
Your whole family underestimated me. And now you're angry because you finally see who I actually am. But this is who I've always been.
You just refuse to look."
Marcus stood up, his face red. "So that's it?
You're just done with all of us?"
"Yes," I said simply.
"I am." He stared at me for a long moment, then turned and walked out.
I didn't stop him. I didn't call after him. I just watched him leave and felt absolutely nothing.
3 months later, I officially filed for divorce. The process was surprisingly simple since we had a prenuptial agreement and no children. Marcus tried to contest it, but his lawyer advised him not to bother. I had documentation of everything. His admission that he had deliberately misrepresented my career to his family, his refusal to defend me during their mockery, his prioritization of his ego over my dignity.
The divorce was finalized within 6 months.
I got the house, my studio, and full ownership of all my artwork and business assets. Marcus got nothing except the debt from his failing startup. His family tried reaching out one last time through a lawyer, claiming they deserved compensation for the emotional distress I had caused by not correcting their misunderstandings. The claim was laughed out of mediation. Meanwhile, my career continued to soar. I launched my own luxury atelier in a beautiful downtown studio space. Collectors waited months for my pieces. I hired 2 apprentices to help with the growing demand. Major publications featured my work regularly. And I cut off Marcus's entire family completely. No contact, no acknowledgement, nothing. They had shown me exactly who they were, and I had finally believed them. The story of the Christmas gift disaster became somewhat famous in art circles. Journalists wrote about it as a cautionary tale about judging artists and underestimating people based on assumptions. I became a symbol of something important. Never underestimate someone just because you don't understand their worth. A year after that terrible Christmas, I sat in my new studio designing a commissioned piece for a private collector in Paris. Sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows. My 3 cats lounged on various surfaces, keeping me company. Classical music played softly from the speakers. I was completely at peace. My phone buzzed with a notification, another commission request, this one from a museum in London. They wanted an original piece for their permanent collection. I smiled and made a note to have my agent follow up. The woman who had stood in Marcus's family living room, burning with shame while they mocked her work, felt like a different person now. That woman had been scared to be seen, afraid to claim her success, willing to shrink herself to make others comfortable.
I wasn't that woman anymore.
I had built something real and beautiful, not out of pain, but out of power. I had learned that my worth wasn't determined by whether people recognized it. It existed independently, solidly, undeniably. And the people who mattered, the collectors, the galleries, the art world, they saw it clearly. As for Marcus and his family, I heard through mutual acquaintances that they still talked about me. About the gifts they had lost, the opportunity they had thrown away, the fortune they had sold for $50 each.
They lived with that regret every single day. I didn't gloat about it. I didn't think about it much at all.
I was too busy creating, building, and living the life I had always deserved. My studio became a sanctuary where beauty was created and respected.
Where craftsmanship mattered more than price tags.
Where people came because they understood value, not because someone told them what to think. I finished the sketch for the Paris commission and sat back, admiring the design. It would be one of my finest pieces yet, intricate, meaningful, and worth every cent the collector would pay for it. Outside my studio window, the city moved and breathed. Inside, I was exactly where I belonged, creating art that would outlast all the people who had ever doubted me. And that, I realized, was the best revenge of all. Not destroying them, but simply continuing to exist, succeed, and thrive without them.
They had tried to make me small.
Instead, they had accidentally set me free. I picked up my tools and started working on the new piece, a small smile on my face.
The past was behind me.
The future was mine to create.
And nobody would ever make me doubt my worth again.